What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you for episode 90 of Every Day We're Covering. We're trucking right along here, getting into the summer months. SJ, it always seems like this time of year you want to slow down a little bit because, it just feels like, summertime, you should relax, have fun, but it seems like that calendar also seems to fill up with all kinds of stuff because it is easier to do things too. So it can get a little hectic, but we try to find our balance here.
Yeah, I guess people probably have a different term of the word, but I guess camping season is more like sports camps around in our house. So it's it's busy. It's doing a lot of running back and forth, and of course, there's always got to when you're playing on different types of teams, a try out here, try out there. Even though you've been on this team before, so there's always something going on. But at least personally, but so maybe it's a good thing that we have a little bit of a slower. Pace to what we like to watch, because that might be cause some in-home disputes there. That might not be good. So I guess it's a good time, but also it does kind of just feel like you're gonna kick back and I got some time to relax. Maybe not so much, but that's all right. We'll make do with what we have to do.
Yeah. I always got a kick. There are some guys that I listen to pretty religiously that talk about college football for the most part, and that was always the joke during the fall. Is they joke about which weekend on the schedule this is the weekend to go to the apple orchard or the pumpkin patch. Get it out of the way this weekend because the schedule's not that enticing. You always have those arguments. I got to be home at 4:00. Damn it! I gotta watch the
Nobody personally that I've known has ever been this crazy, just because they're maybe they're not to the level that we are, but grew up kind of at least somewhat cognizant of the college football season. But you still get those people that want to have their weddings in the fall.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately I've never had to come across that situation where I have to tell you thanks but no thanks. But unless it was someone in the immediate family, which that wouldn't happen because they know better. I'd have to have to just pass it. I'll put the card in the mail.
Yeah. You'll get my gift. That's all it takes. So anyways, weather is improving. It's getting better out there to do all kinds of fun stuff in the outdoors. So a lot of folks doing that now. And good time of year regardless, even if, it's not maybe a little bit slower on the sports front. We do have a lot of topics to touch on, though. Still, of course, have the NBA and NHL finals going on right now. We'll talk a little bit about maybe what's going on in the fight game later. We've got a couple of stories related to the NCAA world. Of course, big news, the House Settlement has passed now, so there is going to be essentially paying of players from the universities now, so we'll get into that here in a little bit. An interesting gambling story out of the state of Illinois as well. And I did want to touch briefly, too, on the old Triple Crown that got breezed over here this weekend, probably by a lot of folks, but did have an interesting result. So we'll get into all that. But first, as we get started, we like to, of course, let you know it's lubricating these dulcet tones that go across your airwaves. SJ, I know you'll appreciate this one. I was, for us folks that live a little further away from the metropolitan areas, we, take advantage of getting to the beer store when we're there. So I did that yesterday. I picked up a couple new ones that I hadn't tried yet and that I had been looking for, or at least had seen and that's interesting. I gotta try that sometime. I got a couple of them, but I'm just going to highlight one here this week. And this is from our fine friends. We've got a pretty good growing relationship here with the folks at Full Fledged Brewing Company in Council Bluffs. And this is one of their recent ones that they put out. It's a sour ale, and they just call it Sour Situation. But it's a sour ale with lime, mango, guava, and pineapple. And not a real heavy hitter, 4.5% on the alcohol by volume level, but I do enjoy it. I like it. I didn't know what I was getting here. This is my first try of it actually right now as we're recording. And it's got a nice, kind of light, definitely a summery vibe. It's a perfect for a summer beer to kind of kick back with and enjoy those different tropical tastes that you get coming through. So good work on them. It's a good sour. SJ,
great name as well too. So that'll get you to. And then also, you throw that guava in there on anything, alcohol or not, I'm in. So I'm itching to try that one. I have to get my hands on that. mentioned having to travel over the weekend, so I was a little ways north and was able to get some zip line. We've had several of their beers and summer vibes as well, or whatever you want to call it, I guess late spring technically. We want to get those, equinox people on our ass, but it's still it's not summer yet, but summer by the calendar at least, or not the the whatever the official start of summer, but they have what they call the can opener. It's just, I guess it's an ale, so but it's kind of like that citrusy. It says orange splash, but I don't really necessarily pick up a ton of it, but it is good. Like I enjoy it very much. Almost, maybe it's just the way it's done or the type of orange it's used. It almost feels more the ones that are using like the tangerine or that type of flavor a little bit. But I guess probably like type of poolside beer. You're I guess grilling type of thing out on the deck, something like that. But definitely a pretty good drink, 4.5 ABV, so decent, and not much of a, I guess, what do you want to call it? Not much of a hoppiness to it. It's like a 8 IBU, so real low on that end. So it goes down pretty good. So this is this is probably one of the only ones they've made that I haven't had. I don't know how many years they've been putting this one out, but I'd heard of it, just hadn't got my hands on it. And it's definitely a pretty good one. I wanted to. They have a spicy dill pickle one, and I mentioned a couple of the dill pickle that I was a little bit hesitant, even though it was a company I liked. And I did sample one that it wasn't a spicy one; it was just dill, and I was probably take it or leave it type thing. But the establishment I got from highly recommended the spicy dill, so that'll be next on my list if I wasn't willing to snag the 12-pack. I needed a variety pack for that one because that's a bit of a leap there to have 12 pickle beers for me at least.
yeah, that's pushing. You gotta know that you're a pickle guy to do that kind of thing. So interesting. I guess we're both on the not the hop in spectrum of the beer world right now, and I'm okay with that. It is definitely fits. I think it seems like to me that fits the summer mode a little bit better. I being a warm weather thing, but to me that's more of a either spring or fall type of mood going on there. You get too much of that, and especially when you're hot and miserable, that doesn't seem to mix sometimes.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, we've kind of gotten a couple days here, at least recently, where it's the 85s and the sun just beating down on you, and even mixing that lovely humidity as well. And I just can't imagine sitting outside, kind of you're probably pretty comfortable, but maybe got a little pit stains or something going on, and just being like, oh yeah, I want that, just give me all the hops you got. That's really my thirst. Like, it just doesn't seem like it's. We all have different taste buds and different palates, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel like, oh, that's refreshing. Yeah, give me that. Give me the double dry hopped IPA.
Yeah. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Yeah, maybe and I guess probably okay in certain settings, like you said. But yeah, after you've done some yard work or that kind of thing, not the move. But yeah, maybe sitting on a patio at the end of the day getting a nice cool off at the end of the day. Yeah, okay, I can see that. But everybody's different. Everybody has their preferences. I will say the one thing that I was slightly annoyed by as I was going through the aisles a little bit. And everything has its day. Like everything has its trend. It seems like we always kind of move towards a certain style of beer for a little while, and it becomes the thing that everybody wants to try to do. But from a consumer standpoint, where I like to try a lot of different things, like it gets annoying when there's one that's like just so prevalent. And it's like it's apparently it's the summer of the hazy IPA, because that's what everybody is making now, and it's just like, how many of these things can I try? I mean, yeah, maybe they're all good. I don't know. But for me, when I'm looking, and even like a standard beer style, which both the breweries that we just talked about actually produce one that they really like, because I'm a Kolsch guy. Full Fledged is one of their main ones, is that, and then also Zipline has a really good one. So, but yeah, and other than that, I couldn't hardly find another one on the shelf. It's like, geez, like, are we gonna mix it up here a little bit, guys? It just seems like we get too one-minded.
I thought maybe you were going to go with the, and we talked kind of was on that ultra light kick elite, but the catch to mine was I wanted some booze, and I wanted still, I want the buzz.
Yeah.
And so, but the place I had been stopped by, they had, an entire, usually you find a couple 6-packs here mixed in here and there, whatever. But I mean, literally like a whole end cap or whatever you want to call it, within the, refrigerated section, just full of the non-alcoholic versions, like
Yeah.
Athletic and Heineken's got a big one they're pushing now. And I mean, all down the line, but that's fine, man. I don't, you don't have to drink. You can do whatever you want. But to me, I'm just like, to me, that seems like a different section. And also, is it really coming off the shelves that quickly? I mean, maybe it is. I just can't imagine buying that much, because for me, the reason that would keep me away from it, if that's the case, I'm just going to have like whatever, give me like I might just drink like water or soda, because if I don't want to, I mean, unless it's like, maybe I'm like hadn't had one for a while. I'm not desperate just for the taste when it costs the same as the real McCoy, Then that's not those. If it was maybe a few bucks cheaper or half price, I probably would do it for, you're going to be out, grilling early and you don't want to start drinking too soon. But if it's going to be the same price, I'm probably going to pass on that.
Yeah, that's where I can see it has its place. Is like, maybe starting the day with a couple of those rather than starting earlier with the real thing. I could see that. Especially as somebody who just, did a little, hiatus experiment from not drinking for a while. I get that a little bit, but you're right. It's just hard to justify too. When, you're used to the other way around. Like, this is what I'm paying for here. Like, I know what I'm getting out of this deal. And it's not to not get that result. So interesting. It definitely, I think it certainly is a generational thing. Like the younger generations, there is definitely a weird new trend of, what they like is very different, I think, from ours and older. So I don't know. Maybe it will be a growing category still. Obviously, it is right now, but we'll see where that goes. That is interesting to point out, though.
I mean, they can keep their vape. I'll take the Colt.
Exactly. Yeah. No kidding. What are we trading here for? It's usually something not good as well. That's what we're drinking on, and we're gonna get into what's going on here in the sports world as we're recording. Game 2 of the NBA Finals is going on, and so far it has been a big snoozer and a big lead for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I guess, to me, again, another one of those scenarios where I'm not shocked, not surprised, because I figured that there would be more motivation than ever for a team playing at home to try to get a win. You don't want to go down 2 on your home floor. That's pretty much a death sentence in the finals. So I figured they'd come out hot and heavy, and they have. I guess as I look at it right now, it's 17 points, which still isn't out of reach, as we know, in these playoffs, but it does feel like, Thunder are going to get this one, even it up at 1. Obviously, just an unbelievable, awesome finish in Game 1 from the Pacers, and another game winner for Tyrese Halliburton, who just seems to have a knack for that this year for some reason. And but it sets up. I mean, this is turning into a pretty good final, especially for all those that were, whining and complaining that we weren't going to get what we wanted out of this.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of, we talked how we just thought that was just basically someone just not wanting to kind of get inside the actual basketball and just take it at face value. So that was glad to see that disproved wrong in the early going. I was more surprised that I thought this is how Game 1 would be more like what Game 2 is. I thought the Thunder might blow them out in the first one, and then Indiana kind of figure things out, just because they obviously had less of a rest, but maybe that helped them in this case. Sometimes you say that's always like one of those old cliches in sports, like, oh, they got rested or that thing. But a lot of times when it plays out, when we looked at the college football playoff, for example, or just different scenarios throughout the season with other sports, sometimes it almost seems like who keeps playing end up playing better, just because they kind of keep, don't have to knock off any rust, and they're ready to go. So, and that was more of, but anyway, so it's for tonight, like we said, it's not, or how it's recording right now, or how the game's going as we record. It doesn't look good, but we could be done here, and by the time we wrap up here, it could be a one possession game. So we don't want to, we're not declaring them dead just yet, but it is good that it's, even if they end up holds the way it is, it's still going to be a 1-1 deal going to Indy. So you kind of like that as someone who wants to see a good series. That's looking good there. It's going to be at least competitive for a few games. We're going to at least get 5, which that was one of the props we threw out there. It was like 5 games I like. So that's looking good, but I'm getting a little nervous here because I didn't think they'd kind of win like that. So, and then going back to Game 1 here, just real quick, just the Halliburton deal, like, not to discredit anything he's doing, but man, in the when I was kind of given the business to SGA because of the way they can just giving the ball up and not wanting to take on 2 different possessions there in the last minute, and then Halliburton does the exact opposite. So as like his mindset as a player, like that's who I'd want. I mean, skill wise, maybe you say he's a little bit behind just overall game, but as far as like mentality and the way you play, like I prefer that style. But I mean, he takes these shots and it's like hit the rim, bounce, 12 feet in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, and so and like I don't say that to be like, oh, he's lucky. It's not lucky. He's making the shot. It's just kind of crazy how like not only is it like a very high difficult shot, the level of difficulty, and then it's just like kind of just like bouncing in or rolling in. It's just like kind of makes the moment even that much more crazy to actually go in. Like he's taking this wild shot, like when he goes, dribbles back against Cleveland behind from the free throw to the 3-point, and does the turnaround shot and kind of gets the lean, gets the roll, and you're just like, man, this is makes that moment even that much bigger that you're kind of willing to take that shot, and then it's like, I don't even know how you want to term it because I don't want to say it's like even like a fluke thing or a luck thing, but just gets the bounce. I mean, that's what. I mean, she said it for years. Shooters, you get the shooter's touch. That's what it's called. So he's doing something right because it keeps happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it is wild, and you're right. It adds to the dramatic flair, definitely to how these things go. And I think I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit of a believer of like sometimes you're just on one, and the guy's on one for this season really, and especially this postseason. And I think anytime that stuff happens, it obviously builds your confidence as a player. And then it keeps happening, and you just keep feeling more and more comfortable taking those shots. And I think that helps. Yeah, it may look ugly, but there's a reason it's still going in. It's because, he's still got something working right in the mechanics and the, belief when it's going up out of his hand that he's given it a good chance. And most of the time it's going in.
I mean, I know just obviously because he's still, part of the broadcast team there. But you look at, one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known pacer in recent memory, Reggie Miller. Like his shot was disgusting.
Yeah,
but it went in, so it didn't matter. Like nobody talked. Like while he was playing, to get brought up, or they'd show stills and be like, man, just because how crazy some of his the angles were and how he'd take shots, but he'd make them, and now nobody even really brings it up. I know most of the people that are probably watching are, it's like different generation that's on TV now, or that's, posting stuff or, commenting about stuff online, but still it's not really a thought anymore. I mean, of course you want to have like, a consistent that you can get your shot off and have somewhat of a, you can't just be, chucking it up one-handed or whatever. But if you have, it works for you, there's a little bit of a, different type of, hitch in your shot or something. If it's going in, it doesn't really matter when it comes down to that, especially at that level, because you're not going to change it at that point anyways. And why would you if somebody can consistently make shots? The one thing I would say that Indiana fans, I'm sure it's nothing they don't think about regularly, but it's maybe the little bit of the roller coaster would be nice to see Halliburton, that consistency level as far as scoring goes. But you can't complain too much when you need it most, he's there. So it's, I mean, what would you rather have, 30 points and nowhere to be found in the crunch time, or 20 with 10 in the fourth quarter and hitting the game winner shot? So
yeah, that it definitely is. If there is a bag on him, that would be it. It's there are games where he seems to maybe disappear a little bit, and you don't want that from your star. But I think that also buys in a little bit to how Indiana is as a team. They seem to play more that way. It's not always just like count on the one guy. They can make one or two guys be the guy that night, so that helps. But yeah, in the moment, obviously he's comfortable getting it, taking it, and then taking the shot. And he said that right after the game when they asked him, like, yeah, I want to be that guy, and they trust, my team trusts me to be the guy to take that shot, and that's what I'm going to go do. It is interesting too, when you talk about the level of difficulty or whatever decisions, like this is how it always goes, and it obviously it makes sense, but you make the shot, everybody loves it and loves you and loves the shot and all the scenarios and blah blah blah. You miss it, why the hell did we take that shot? We analyze it that way, and in reality, a lot of them that he has taken and made are the ones that they tell you not to take, like the kind of that mid-range shot, or maybe, toe inside the 3-point line. Everybody gets pissed about that kind of thing. He's doing that. But again, yeah, it seems to be the place where he's very, very, very comfortable too. And he's knocking them down. So it is funny, I guess, the kind of juxtaposition of those scenarios as well. It's kind of interesting. I think just I think him as a player too. For some reason, he just seems to have like there's a relaxed quality about him. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he doesn't feel the pressure as much, or maybe he just has a different ability to kind of, ignore it, or just let it roll off his back easier than other people do. But he sure seems to be like, just kind of, he doesn't change much. He's pretty much calm, cool guy. And I think obviously in those type of moments, we've seen it throughout history that for those type of guys, it usually helps a little bit to have kind of that edge of the nerves off a little.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, maybe he's not like the I don't know, kind of like I wouldn't say he's like quiet, because we saw, he was pulling out the choke, right away. So it's like he definitely, and everybody on that court, is talking trash, even though we can't pick it up on the mics. But he's not like the, major, like big time outspoken guy, or someone that's always out there with. So I think sometimes that can, because I know there was talk of, during the game tonight where I guess there's some anonymous, quote from somebody about him being like the most overrated player in the league or something like. And of course, this comes out after, here magically, someone brings it up or gets in some, some puff piece here, or some column, right? When they need those, subscribers to re-up or whatever you have. But either way, like I'm sure it probably was said or whatever, because I mean, most people probably aren't going to give somebody else credit why they're still playing, because it's like that's your, your competition. You're not trying to build them up. But I think probably some of that comes with it too, especially the lags in scoring, that type of thing. It's people probably kind of just think he's, maybe like a stat stuffer type guy, and then don't really, doesn't get the recognition he probably deserves. But I think after this, whatever happens with the series, with this final series, I think he's done enough to at least be, get legitimate, what do you want to call it? Like, star of the leagues, or top 10 players, in the league, however you want to term it. He's probably at least within the conversation for most of those, at least offensively.
Yeah, for sure. So it is fun. Hopefully, like we said, the series continues to be interesting and intriguing here from here on out, and I think it will be. So that series does look like probably by the time we're sending this out will be 1-1. Over in the NHL, we know that that's the case. It is 1-1 in the Stanley Cup Finals. Panthers and Oilers. It took extra time to get it done in both games. Pretty exciting stuff. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to watch a whole lot of this yet. Just scenarios of what I've been at, or haven't been able to watch them. But the Oilers sure seemed like in that first game, came out with some pretty good mojo. And obviously you get to overtime, and then it's just the excitement of the playoffs anyways. But it amplifies by, 100 when you're in the Stanley Cup Finals. So these guys were on edge. But the Oilers get it done, and of course, it's one of the stars that makes it happen. Leon Draisaitl got the winner, or the opening goal in that game, and then got the game winner in overtime in that first game to give them the edge 4-3. And then the next night, the Panthers were able to force it to overtime, as they got up. So it was 3-2 Edmonton at the end of the first period. Couple goals from the Panthers there in the second, and then one in the third for Edmonton to get it to the extra session. And then they had to go to 2 OTs to finally decide it. And then Florida was able to get the winner, as the former Bruin Brad Marchand was the one who got the game-winning goal. He certainly seems to have fit in very well with that team, and he's done a lot for them. So it has been fun. Both goalies, I would say, in that game, did their best after that first period. They kind of amped it up a little bit and played better. That's what's so much. We talked about this before the series started. These two teams were going to score goals, and they have done that. But it's interesting that you've got two pretty well, respected goalies in this series too. And it just shows, like, even they can't do much about the firepower that's out there on the ice. And yeah, we've seen 5-4 and 4-3 here so far. So pretty good goal totals. And again, that might be a way to continue to see this thing playing out.
Yeah, I was looking at game 3 tomorrow night, and you mentioned the total there. It's I mean, interestingly enough, you can take it for what you will. It's 6.5 as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if it sits, I'm going to go over because we got 7 goals and 9 goals, and
Yeah.
that was kind of what we said coming into the series. At least I thought like anything 5.5 or anything. If you're at 5.5, anything over that, just take that. So I'm going to probably go ahead and do that tomorrow night, just because it's such a we're still fairly early in the series, and both games have been razor thin margins of victory on both sides. So I don't necessarily feel confident with it's puck line is 1.5 right now either way. I mean, I'd probably feel better with maybe Edmonton covering that, getting plus 1.5. At
Mm-hmm.
least this is via the book I'm looking at. So that might be, you want to pair that together with the overs, and then even if they win, you're good, or if they lose by a goal, you're sitting good, and that'd give you about plus 200 with a parlay there of those both picks. So that might be something we'll look at tomorrow night. We'll get something out on the social media for you guys, but yeah, that'd be something probably just early glance I'd be looking at. But I mean, so far been hell of a series. However it's gone, and anytime you get extra hockey, it's always kind of cranks up that meter there a little bit more, because those fans don't need anything extra to get crazy, and then it does it, and then it's a madhouse in there.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And there's a good battle too going on. With that getting that first game started, I was like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good about the Draisaitl goal leader in the series pick. But right now, he would be in second place because he's got 3 in the series here so far, and Marchand now has 4. If I'm tallying up here correctly, because. Well, no, they would be tied. Excuse me, they would be tied. They both have 3 because Marchand did have 2 in this last game, and Draisaitl just had 1. So, yeah, they're tied up with both having 3 so far. So that's going to be an interesting battle, too. They're both playing very well, and we knew that Draisaitl was kind of the odds-on favorite to do so just because he is a goal scorer. That's kind of his role. But Marchand, yeah, he seems to be in the right spot, right times for this Florida team. So they're fun to watch. It's going to be a good series heading out here the rest of the way. Kind of again what we expected there. Firepower, you like offense, you're getting it here in the Stanley Cup Finals. So good stuff from that series. We'll move on here to a couple of little topics related to what's going on in the NCAA world. First one, obviously, is kind of the big news. We've been waiting for this. It's been coming for an awful long time. And it was funny. I read in the story, too. It said, to fans like, if you we don't blame you, I guess, essentially for not paying attention to this recently, because this is one of those things that drags on, forever, and you don't know what's going on in the court system. Most of us don't understand legal jargon to begin with, and what this actually does mean until it gets, spelled out to us after the fact, which is, I guess, an unfortunate part of the legal system in general. But so basically what this paves the way for is the settlement now is approved, the situation where there will be revenue sharing. So schools will share their revenue, and the legalities of it right now are, I think, 22% of their revenue can then be turned around and shared with student athletes, which it kind of sets like benchmarks. So every school is supposed to be the same, which does make a little bit of sense there. So we're finally getting maybe on track to here's some guidelines, I guess you could say. We hate to say all those stupid, terms, but that's what we're gearing ourselves towards, and hopefully this is a step in the right direction. Now, whether it fully becomes that's still up in the air, but we're moving towards something that maybe is going to be equitable for everyone.
Well, I mean, it's a little tricky because being a free market, capitalistic society, it's like, well, where you can get the most money, you should get it. But we saw when that happened, kind of how outrageous it got, and the fact that there weren't like, barriers in place to kind of prevent just going here, going there, getting some money, then leaving the next couple months, and all that type of thing. So, I mean, unfortunately, this, it's kind of like one of those things where a couple people ruin it for everybody. But I do think, I don't disagree that there should be some, and we think we're both on the same page there, that there's got to be, it can't just be like, go ahead, do whatever you want, because it's obviously it hasn't worked so far, and you could just see it getting kind of going way the other way, and then there's going to be a situation where you're like, okay, we tried it that way. Now I guess you guys can't get any money, and we'll just go back to the old way. So I guess that's the way to do it. I do think, I don't know, it's try not to be like cynical or whatever, but it's like, well, this is kind of like an NCAA deal, I guess, still. So who knows what this will really fix and solve, and it could be down the road there. But even when it comes to like legal stuff too, it's like, I mean, as someone that has to from time to time actually read legal documents for full time for occupation, it's you can't follow it when you know what's going on. It's pig Latin to someone that knows what you need to just like a docket report, anything like that. So yeah, I lost interest in it myself too, just because it's like it was supposed to be decided how long ago, and then I mean, I don't know, is she just out to lunch on vacation? The judge who was needing to decide, she's just taking her time, and it's like, the football season, I mean, basically it's kind of starting now when you factor in workouts and kids, that are enrollees are coming in summertime, and that type of stuff. This and then with especially when it came to the roster counts, where they were trying to lower the number of players on your team. Some of these kids they have to transfer or just move on with their lives if they don't have anywhere else to play. So that was like the type of thing that I was kind of more focused on, was the timing of it. It's like, let's just get a decision. Kind of got to the point where it's like, I didn't really care one way or the other. It's like, let's just get it figured out so that we can kind of move on and know what we have to do going forward. Because some schools, I mean, you're talking about 40 some players that are going to be moving on from your school.
Yeah, no kidding. It does, affect a lot of things. So you got to give people time to sort out situations and figure all this stuff out. Just to I guess give you a little bit more of the details, if you are haven't paid attention to this at all, it starts so it goes into effect July 1st. Each school will be allowed, but not required, to spend roughly $20.5 million in new payments to their athletes. That figure comes from a formula that caps athlete payments at, I mentioned that 22%. So that's 22% of the average annual revenue that FBS level schools get from their ticket sales, broadcast rights, and a few other things. Now, the way that the settlement is set up that cap will grow on a regular basis during the 10-year lifespan of the deal. And so as schools' revenue expands, obviously then it'll increase. And then, of course, there's some scheduled incremental increases just built in anyways. That works like doesn't anything else with a salary cap kind of deal. So it does pave the way. Now, what's going to get now into the legal battle and be criticized and analyzed is what schools are then doing that to its full potential, which I'm sure most of them that are in the highest levels are going to do that. But some of the smaller schools may say, hey, we can't really afford that. We're not going to do it. So
20 million is a big number in some places. I mean,
and then then also you're going to get arguments about where is it spent, because most schools have said 90% of this is going to go to football and basketball, men's basketball. And then you're going to get the arguments, and it's already been brought up, well, then how does that legal when you factor in Title IX? Now you're not giving some compensation to female athletes. So, this is long from over, obviously, but it does set, a starting point, I guess, that we've been wanting for an awful long time to get to. The other interesting part of this, too, and this is, I think, maybe the most important part, is so it sounds like most college administrators and the NCAA obviously want this to be a scenario where this kind of satisfies the need for athletes to be employees deal. So basically we're going to share revenue with them, but they're still not technically employees is what they want this to do. And then obviously you can still have your side NIL deals. They are trying to make sure that is kind of capped so that it's not just like fake things to give them a higher salary, which, how you figure that out, I have no clue. That's the other part of it is they want it to stay this way and not be, employees. Now, if you're going to really solve some of the other issues as far as what that salary cap always will be in the future, also, what kind of what kind of rights, to spread that revenue out between certain athletes do they have themselves? Then you're getting into a scenario where you have to basically have a collective bargaining unit, and that would involve a union, and then they have to be employees. So there's going to be athletes on the other side that are still going to push back on this to say that we still just need to be full employees. And then, of course, that brings in the other parts of it, like benefits and those types of things that we all have in the real world. So, that's the hang-up point. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. I mean, I still have a feeling at some point it's going to become the full blow-on employee deal. But if they can figure this out in a way and structure it that does make everybody happy, I do think this is a good answer for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we kind of just a Band-Aid deal, but something had to be done, just because not only was there just not enough guidance out there, it was just more of a fact that maybe it's just like a built-in excuse for people, or just a way to complain and stuff. So it's like, we got to put something out there. These coaches just like, I can't do anything. These kids can transfer. It's like, bro, there's always going to be something. Now it's going to be, whatever this or that. Because I guess depends on how you look at it. It's not like the NIL deal is like going away with like what do they call them? Like the I don't know, the entities that are kind of providing it, like the third party type thing.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's still going to be around with that's still going to be around. And even just the guy that wants to be a part of the program that never was or has been, that wants to be, there's still going to be the whatever, the $100 handshakes or the bags of cash, that type of thing, probably still going to be out there. So it's probably an impossible thing to eliminate, but at least, I mean, trying to do something to make it seem on the up and up, or at least some type of as level playing field as you're going to get, because you're never going to, it's just not the nature of sports to have like everything equal as competition. It's too hard to do that. But you also want to be able to like have some, have a legitimate shot at, competing with other schools, even if you have, disadvantages that aren't of your own doing.
Yeah. Well, it was funny too, because the article even said, we've already seen that number, 20.5 million, isn't going to get you the roster that you want to be competitive for a national championship in a lot of these sports anyways. So, like, how ridiculous does that sound already? Like, we've gone from 0 to, 20.5 million, and that's not good enough. So, that's already been pointed out. I guess the other hang up too that I didn't, and this is the thing that most of us, I think, want to see in some fashion. If you're going to also require some kind of commitment, from kids not to just be here a month and leave, then also that's another scenario where you probably have to get into a CBA deal. There's got to be rules. So that's the hang up there. I think we all, as fans, certainly would love to see guys stick around more than a hot minute. That's what we are used to and what we like to see, and programs like to see, obviously, so they're not, their heads aren't spinning all the time, like who's going where, what are we doing. I don't know. I think definitely is a step maybe in the right direction, at least from where we were in a complete world of just chaos. So now we've got a building block to build from. So hopefully there is some good to come of this down the road. But yeah, far from perfect here so far, that's for sure. But it has changed the world of college athletics officially, I guess, as we know. We already knew that, but now it's in legislation. The other little story we were going to bring up here, of course, we talk a lot about wagering and our abilities to do so and how that's done. And there was a pretty interesting article that came out, in a law that was passed by the state of Illinois. No shock, the state of Illinois involved in some sort of shady tax situation. But and I guess this happened in the middle of the night too. They passed the bill, but essentially what it does is they're putting a tax on every time you make a bet. If you're in the state of Illinois, it's 25 cents for every bet for a licensee's first 20 million bets. So they're framing this is supposed to be for the companies, but it obviously is going to be passed on to people making the wagers. So what's going to happen is they'll change the minimums that you can do as far as a bet is concerned, and it'll just cover that cost that they're eating. And then it rises from there after that 20 million mark. So Basically, they're just doing this, and it sounds like I haven't read the bill in full, but in this article it said that it's part of a $1 billion new tax package that's basically a lot of it is funding public transit. Which is odd because it's a world that I work in a little bit now, so I can see I see the merit of that need, but this isn't the way to do it. I don't like this at all. But it sets a precedent now. I mean, what other states are going to look at this and say, well, shit, we're going to do that too. And one of the arguments that they tried to make also was that, like, well, this will help curb problem gambling because people won't be doing the small bets anymore because they have that extra cost. Well, somebody else argued, well, it's either going to make it worse because those people just decide to put more money on it because now I'm paying for it extra, I'm going to do more, or it's going to turn into a scenario where the frequency just ups. Or they change it, so maybe you're not doing 10 small bets during the week, but you decide to just do one big one because now you're getting taxed for it. So, it's not really changing anything on that front. That's just a ruse to make you feel better. But interesting. It definitely opens up a lot of doors that are probably going to take things the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean, tax obviously no one wants to pay them, but as long as they're used for what they should be, it's understandable why they're needed. But in this case, it would be nice if it was the companies and the books that foot in the bill because they have plenty of money, and not only that, there's enough what do you want to call it, loopholes and fine print, and they're getting over on the customers hand over fist already. So it'd be nice if they because I would be like I could understand the cities and states and counties and country kind of going after these I'm almost. I know there's more than one brand, but they do have, as far as on the actual, activity of sports gambling and gambling in general, they definitely have like the what do you want to call it, the upper hand there. It's not a monopoly, but they definitely are playing with a better hand, pardon the pun. So it would be nice for them to come after them. But yeah, I don't think this will do much to stop people that are kind of have an issue with betting too often or too much, or whether it be too much money or too much frequency. That's not going to do anything there. It's unfortunate. I guess if I was someone that lived close to another state, I guess I'll just take my betting business over there because there's a couple of neighboring states that have legalized gambling as well. So they might see an increase of that, if anything, or people using different apps that it doesn't matter where you're located. You can go ahead and make some plays in a different location. So if anything, they might see more of that than cutting down on problem gambling. And I'm sure some people will speak, whatever, it's this or that. And I guess I'm even, I mean, I don't necessarily like it, but I can understand where if someone wins, a significant amount of money where you do have to, because I mean, it's income you're bringing in. So that's just like the nature of the way business is done in this country is you're going to have to pay some tax on it. But to before you even are win or you're not even getting compensated, have to pay a tax then, to me, that would be something where I'm going to probably, not even just the amount, but I just, on principle, I'd be like, I'm not going to do business with these people anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when I thought about it, it's just like you're paying I'm already taking my own risk.
Everything's on your side, yeah.
So like now I'm gonna pay you to do that too. Like I don't know. It's a very odd conundrum. I mean, I realize that these entities on the back end are getting taxed anyway. Like that's how this works. And yeah, 100% they're finding ways for me to pay for that. But when it's just up front like that, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. Every time there's a bet place, we're putting a tax on it. So it's definitely a weird way to go about it. I don't like the look of it. I mean, from a politician standpoint, sure, you get in these scenarios, and a lot of times it's easier to argue something like this than it is, taking it away from whatever other program or whatnot, we'll just take it from the gamblers, they feel better about that. I understand that. But at the same time, most of these states also have realized the benefits of the taxes that have already been put in place and been delivered back to their communities. I mean, that for where I live, that's been the long-standing deal for a long time. Iowa made gambling legal long before the state of Nebraska did, realized a lot of that revenue on that side of the river, and there's been a lot of things that have been built and created or helped because of that revenue. So it does come back in some ways. So I don't. I mean, yeah, there's issues with gambling. I get that, but maybe this isn't the way to try to change that or make that policy. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if other states do follow suit and you see similar legislation passed. But the one thing that was brought up in the article that also you already kind of pointed out is this may also lead to other problems like people turning to other illegal markets that are out there. I mean, we all know that technology is easily accessible for a lot of people to figure things out, and that might be what it is, and that in the long run might hurt your state because then that revenue is going somewhere else and they're not paying that. There's another little wrinkle to this too that I'll get to in a second, but that is just yeah. I mean, I guess you run the risk of kind of cutting your own throat a little bit there too.
Well, yeah, with the bring up technology, the work from home deal that's a little bit more accepted these days. A lot of people a little bit better with the VPNs these days, so it might be a little bit less of a struggle. And I guess if you want to talk about paying fees or something extra, I'd almost be better with. And I don't even know how this would work. And of course, it would never get off the ground because it seemed too much of a benefit to the consumer. But I'd probably feel much better if I was someone in this area. I'd be like, charge me for like a membership or something and maybe give me some different odds, maybe some, different, I guess, what do you want to call it? I don't want to call them just some different options that, maybe your general customer is not getting. And then you can just use that membership fee as your tax. And then at least you're not, I guess you don't feel like you're getting kind of screwed out of money on your bet and you're just making a bet, but you're, with the understanding that you're kind of, paying for this extra service, if you will. I mean, to me, that seems like it'd be a little bit more easy to like kind of accept and be like, well, at least I'm getting something, whether it just be maybe a little bit better number or some different types of bets that you can actually make. Because that's one thing I often come across no matter what the book is that, I mean, I've always feel like if it's like, will this person get hit a home run? It's always, there's a lot of times there's only well, I guess that's a bad example because home run's always yes or no. But either way, like there's prop bets, and it'll be like, will this happen? Yes, but there's not always a no option. Or the other way, will this happen? It says no, but there's not a yes option. To me, it's like, well, then you're kind of, basically just saying like you're taking even the 50-50 out of it. Now it's just 0 and 100. So like that type of thing. Give you bets like that where it's like a certain props like that within these things. So. Those are the type of kind of advantages I guess I was speaking of earlier when I say they're already kind of getting over on the consumer with those types of offerings on their within their company, and then you want to add extra taxes on top of that where you're going to be getting some to begin with when they make the bet, when you win the bet, and then this extra one too. Like I don't know how much. I know these companies are greedy, but damn.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I like that the membership thing. If you're gonna you're gonna take something away, at least give me some kind of perk here along the way. The other thing that's coming of this too, and I was gonna bring this up recently because I'd heard about it anyways, but there's becoming some other options out there as far as kind of like exchange-based scenarios. So there's a company called Kalshi, I guess, and I don't know anything about this company in particular, but it was mentioned in that article about the Illinois situation. And so it's basically like a market platform. So you're making it's prediction markets. So the thing that I think that makes this different, and it's filtered into some other places too. And the reason I heard about it is because I know somebody that uses the Robinhood app, which is obviously an investing app. But yeah, they've started releasing some of these for some of the major events. So basically, what they call it is contracts. So you're buying contracts for that team and that scenario to happen. Now, I think what makes this a little bit different and how they skirt around the rules of, what you would consider just straight up sports gambling is that you are allowed to kind of like pull in and out of the market whenever you feel like it. So, you get it up a little bit, you can take it out. You down just a touch and that's all you want to lose, you can take it out. So that's the difference. You're treating it like a fluid market, whereas a sports app, you don't most of the time don't have those options. Unless the fourth leg of your four leg has already come through with 3, and they're telling you, oh, we'll take this cash because we don't want to give you the rest. That's the only time you're getting that on those apps. So that's I think the difference there. You're betting on those scenarios, and then just like you said. There can be some of those scenarios too where they put it out there where like you're I don't know, quote unquote shorting a situation, where you're saying no, that's not going to happen, kind of thing. So it's interesting. It looks like fun, and some of the returns that I was seeing too, it's like, man, this could be pretty legit as compared to your just here's my plus 150 odds on this team to win. If you're buying the stock, sometimes it can be even better. You're getting a better end result essentially there if you're buying the contracts. So it's a whole new world. Obviously, I think there's going to be a point where they regulation get claws hooked into this deal. But yeah, I mean, you're turning people to stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? But to me, that would almost like that's a little too businessy for me. I'd probably be like, I don't know, I just like feel like I'm a day trader or something. And when you get taking the numbers in business, that just that my attention span and also just my my level of, I guess, knowledge, because of the fact that I'm not going to really get in the weeds of it and the details. I just go straight down. So I'd feel like I'm probably going to be losing money if I have to go that route. So I'd probably just, call it a day and find a new hobby, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, I don't blame these companies for finding ways around it, though. It's smart. It's a good way to make money and get people invested and take some customers from another business. But as far as like, if I had to go that route, I'd probably expect I'm going to be done till they figure something else out. Because to me, that takes kind of like when you're doing, especially with like, sports betting and that type of thing, like, I guess your advantage is the knowledge of the game and that type of thing. But to me, that takes a little bit of that out of there, because you're, I guess, more of a, you're more of a projecting further than just like a day or two, or maybe a prop. You just want 5 points or something. Those type of things aren't going to be probably available as readily, or it's going to be termed in a different way. Or maybe like when we were talking about the legal mumbo jumbos, there's enough business mumbo jumbo out there too that's hard to understand and worded in a way. So like when you go to vote, it's like, it's like basically the opposite of what you're wanting to say yes to, you got to say no or whatever. Like, it's like, can you just ask me the question in plain English? Like,
yeah. The trick questions.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that scares me too about some of these other things is like, the moral compass is already off on most of these companies, and now you're going to throw in ones that have less regulation and skin in the game. Yeah. I mean, if you watch the movie Dumb Money, you know how Robin Hood likes to treat people, so this probably is not going to end well in all these other various scenarios out there.
Yeah, I always got a kick out of that, how people kind of had a certain feeling about gambling or betting and going to even casinos on site or off site, but they were always okay with quote unquote investing in stock market. I'm like, it might not be a game being played in front of your face, but it's essentially the same concept.
So you all telling me a couple of bookies?
Yeah.
I told you you'd understand, Mortimer. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, we all figure this out eventually if you're paying attention. So definitely a weird what's going on in that world, and we'll keep our eye on it, see where it goes. There may be some more changes in other states on the horizon, unfortunately, and I don't know. If it gets out of hand, I guess there probably is going to be at some point where who knows, federal legislation gets involved in what is and what is not allowed for states to do in those scenarios too, to make it an even thing across the board. So very, very interesting and kind of strange at the same time. Speaking of dumb money, the SEC has increased their fines for rushing the field and storming the court. It's up to $500,000 now for a team. If that happens, we've long, of course, and from our side of the vantage point, ignored any of this anyways, and I don't think that's going to change. This was always, of course, in the name of safety, I get it. Things happen. Like, you do what you can to mitigate those parts of the scenario, but you can't take it away from the game, because we all know that we were once dumb young college kids that love to have a good time, and that's part of the sport. And, us watching the highlights at the end of the day, we always loved that. Like, we knew it was a big moment because there was a massive humanity on the field having fun. Like, so I think we're both on the front of, let the fans have their fun and have their day. They're paying their money to get in. Yeah, should you not be doing bad things? Yeah, and should those people get very much punished if something does happen? 100%. But just increasing fines from a conference standpoint isn't going to do a damn thing.
I mean, the storming the court thing or field or whatever, depending on what sport you're in, if it's in the justified scenario, not only you're not going to stop it, it's just kind of like the wave. It's part of part of the game. It's not like you're gonna, or the defense chant. It's not gonna go away. I'd much rather have them worry about the fines of fans throwing bottles and doing that type of thing. What we saw, that should be more of the focus there, and not running on the field. Which I know there is probably a safety issue too, but I don't know if you spent any time around any college, probably, or college pro, whatever level stadium, from the tailgate to the stands to the game, and then throughout, there's plenty of safety issues through that 5-hour window. I don't think a little 30-second to a minute kind of interaction is any different than what goes on these places on a weekly basis. So I guess it's just another I don't know, to me it's another PR blunder from that. They've had quite a few from that conference here in the last few days there, and just another one to put on there. Just I don't know what they thought the reaction would be. I don't think even schools in that conference aren't going to be like, "Oh, thanks, good job. You made us look really good here." It doesn't. Nobody's going to applaud this, kind of whatever you want to call it, this stance or this, I guess, moral high ground. I don't know what they're trying to prove out here.
Yeah, I don't know. Leave it to the SEC to lead the charge, though, on something stupid like this. I just thought it was funny when I came across the article.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, it'd be them. One other little nugget here I wanted to bring up, because it's easy to gloss this over, I think, this year, but there is a horse that won 2 legs of the Triple Crown. And he did not race in the other leg of it. Sovereignty won the Belmont Stakes over the weekend. Great race. Came back and beat Journalism, who, of course, had won the Preakness, and ran awesome in that race, too. That was an exciting one. And then just didn't quite have enough there down the stretch. Journalism was out front, and then late hard charge from Sovereignty, and he was pulling away as the race finished. Now, there are some caveats here, of course, to this. Like, obviously a lot of people applauded the team with Sovereignty because they made the decision not to run in the Preakness because they felt it was a health related issue. Had some kind of bruised things going on there with the horse, and they didn't want to risk it in running the Preakness, which I think a lot of people appreciate. Didn't do that. Ran in the Belmont, win, of course, the Belmont. So now, everybody's, of course, going to be the 2020 hindsight guy. Like, well, if what would have happened, he would have won a Triple Crown, he would have done that. Well, you also don't know that he would have bounced back and raced as well in the Belmont if he ran the Preakness. So we don't know that. So for certain, it definitely brings up some interesting talking points. And I think, at the end of the day, we did see some really good horses in this whole field this year. I think maybe even more so than we realize. There's going to be some good, because if you look at it from Journalism standpoint, he's Sovereignty away from being a Triple Crown winner. Like he was right there to win the other 2 races and didn't just finish just behind him. So there's another great horse that they kind of have in their battles. But I think ultimately it harkens back to what we talked about on this show a while back. Is like, maybe we need to really look at this schedule and change this up so that we don't run into these scenarios where we don't have these what ifs. If Sovereignty would have had more time to get ready for the Preakness, they probably would have ran. Then we don't have the question of what if. So I think that's going to get more and more talked about and scrutinized now that we've had this result.
The way I look at it is the more likely scenario was that he runs the first race, gets hurt, doesn't win it, and doesn't even get to the other two. So to me, that would seem probably more likely than him winning that and then going on to win the next one, considering that they had the injuries and that type of thing. So of course, yeah, it's easy to, and it seems more like makes it a bigger issue and bigger story. But the schedule is probably the biggest deal. Now that's what we talked about, is especially with the, which I think is right when we said before, is the care and more concern for the the animal actually doing the the hard part of it. Not nothing against the jockeys, but they're the horse is actually running the race.
Yeah.
The concern for them and their safety and well being, like that should be first and foremost. And now that there's actually like things in place to like monitor that, and they're not just letting go ahead and run. We're gonna probably see it. You're gonna see it more often than not. So it does stink, but I mean, unless they want to space them out and kind of give some more time there, you're gonna see. I mean, almost every year it seems like, at least in one of the races, it might not be the winner, but there's a significant scratch there. It may not be last minute, but before they get to run.
Yeah, we see it. We see it every leg, and especially it's magnified, of course, when it's the Derby to begin with. But yeah, it's interesting, and it does bring up some good talking points, and I think at some point we will see some change. But aside from that, they were three good races. If you're a horse racing person, they were three good races to watch, and congrats to Sovereignty for winning a couple of those legs. But obviously lost its luster because of what we're all used to as a widespread fan base is you getting the casual person, you got to have that Triple Crown on the line. So, but good stuff. All right, that's gonna wind things down here for the most part. Did have a little bit of fight stuff over the weekend, SJ. I know you threw a couple of picks out on that. Sounds like we're gonna have some more major stuff here coming up as well. Maybe was a little bit more ho hum this past go around.
Yeah, it was. I guess as far as maybe the main card there at least is I'd term it more of a snooze fest than anything. Couple of finishes, but nothing like exciting. I guess as far as competitive level, and the picks kind of reflected that. I mean, the ones that probably stuck in my craw here the most, or grinding my gears, was I did a heavyweight on the undercard with Spivak against Cortez Acosta. And I mean, Spivak came in with his last four fights were finishes. Cortez Acosta's last two fights were finishes. Two of the three he fought, and then of course, so I'm like, good chance here. Not only considering that, but also being heavyweights. Those fights don't usually go too long, just in the nature of the game and the power, and just as far as a lot of these guys aren't in great shape, so they end up gassing type of thing too. But of course, it goes the distance, and not only that was it so I went under 2.5, so I was already beat when it went to the distance. So no, I didn't really care, but it was probably the worst decision on the card. They end up giving Cortez Acosta the win, where that's the issue we bring up every time we bring up a fight here or there, almost regular basis, is there's not a clear-cut scoring system. But as far as, at least, I mean, I don't like to agree with a commentary team too often, considering who's sitting behind that desk most times. But they thought the other guy won. The general fan thought the other guy won. People that cover the sport thought Spivak should have got the win, and I was along those lines too. When they said that, I was like, how the hell did this guy win? I mean, good, he ain't going to complain or apologize for it, but definitely that was a bit of a screw job. And then we went to the main card there. The one I cashed pretty decent on was Kayla Harrison winning the bantamweight title. There was kind of a given there, just pretty dominant fashion. And then I guess the other one that was kind of a bit I don't know, not necessarily I would say a little surprising, but more so disappointing, was the other kind of, I guess, quote, big loss I had was Patchy Mix, who had come over from the other leagues, Bellator / PFL, because they kind of combined. He was a champion over there, actually. And I mean, he just got the piss beat out of him. Like, it was a decision, but I don't know what he was doing there. Like, I guess he thought he was going to walk through the guy, and I thought he was, better than him. But Batista had been like on a 6 or 7 fight win streak. So I definitely didn't prepare. I don't know if he was hurt. The stage was too big. He kind of froze in the moment, almost, it seemed like, but got the hell beat out of him and lost that one. So that one and the heavyweights were the ones that kind of got me. And then I did have the correct fighter winning the main event, Marab, but he get a submission. So I'm like, what the hell? And because man, he hasn't had a finish. You have to go back a ways on the calendar. Yet, I mean, from back to 2023, all of his wins are by decision. You have to go back to September of 2021. He won by TKO over Marlon Moraes. So what is that, like almost 4 years ago?
Wow.
Was his last finish in. So that was more. So I knew he would win. I thought he just kind of ragdoll O'Malley there for 5 rounds again and get the win. So had the right fighter, but to get value, I needed to pick the outcome. I could have just picked him straight up and not won any money. Yeah. Obviously, I was on the right fighter, but just trying to give you guys some value out there. So that one was not so much kind of like, what the hell? Like, I couldn't believe that. And he choked him out on top of everything. If you thought he was going to win by a finish, it would have been like a ground and pound type thing. Or maybe, some type of, injury or fluke type of thing. But I mean, that's the, nature of the game. It's kind of like the theater of the unknown. I know that's been said about boxing a lot, even combat sports in general. It's like you don't really know what's going to happen, and that kind of makes it exciting. But I will say, like, overall, it was an okay card. Maybe like a B-, C. Nothing too major, but luckily there's another pay-per-view later this month, so we'll check that out. And there's some good boxing coming on down the line too.
All right. Some interesting scenarios there for sure. That makes it tough. I get when you're talking from a gambler's perspective, like you said, banking on something that was pretty consistent for many years and then changes. That's pretty hard to swallow.
That's one of those you wish where it's like you're kind of like, I'm just gonna stick with this thing, but it was the opposite way. Like, I'm picking this guy to win by knockout every fight, and then you lose for 5 rounds, and then finally on the 6th one, you're like, I knew it was gonna happen one of these days. But I was like the opposite way. I was like, he always wins by decision, and I think he was like he was at least like minus 230, 240 at close to the fight there. So you're not going to get much value there, even with a bigger size bet. So it was okay because obviously I was on the winner, and that's I kind of thought was going to win. It's one of those things like that's how it goes some nights.
Yeah. Well, and I think that also harkens a little bit to we put out the graphic earlier this week of our kind of picks for the finals in both the NHL and the NBA. And that was some of my thought on a couple of things. It's like, well, I love the value of this. Do I feel 100% confident it's going to happen? No. But I'm going to do this rather than just take a thing that's going to give me 20 cents for my dollar. Like, that's what we're always looking for, is that little extra. You don't want to go crazy on it, but you also have to, again, find a little bit of value to make it, worth your risk, I guess, so to speak. It's that kind of gambler's paradox. You got to find that fine line. I did want to mention too, I guess, prayers and thoughts going out to Ben Askren as well, a former, well-known MMA fighter. It sounds like he's in a real bad deal. Hospitalized very suddenly with severe pneumonia, his wife has announced. I guess initially the rumors and thought was that he had a staph infection, but I guess that's not necessarily the case. It's just a really bad pneumonia scenario, which obviously you hear that from a lot of older folks. It can be a very bad deal, but for a 40-year-old guy, that's not great. So crappy scenario there.
Yeah, that was obviously the first thing you think about the Wild thing is like, dude, he's not that old. Not saying that of course any age can get it, but to the fact where not being responsive, and that's it's just no messing around there. That's a pretty serious scenario. So hopefully, for everything comes out okay on that, and you never know what's going on, but especially in those, I mean. That is a kind of inherent risk, especially when you brought up staph or just like with even wrestling and then just being on the mats in general. It's like you can do everything possible to make sure you're doing the right things with hygiene wise and just cleaning the mats and everything up. But sometimes it's just like it's out of your control when it comes to that. Sweating on each other hours on end every day. It's like eventually something's going to happen, or someone has a cutter, or somebody else isn't taking care of themselves the right way.
Yeah, it's definitely part of that world. So that's what we had on the docket for you here this week. We're rolling right along here. We're closing in on that 100 episode mark. So I don't know. Might have to try to find something fun to do for that. But we definitely appreciate everybody that has been along for at least some of the ride. If you've joined us and listened, we certainly appreciate your time spent. We know how valuable the most valuable thing you have in life is your time. So if you're taking a little bit of it to listen to us yammer about sports, we certainly appreciate that and love it. We would appreciate if you would like, subscribe, and share the podcast in all the platforms that's available. Our host happens to be at Spotify, but you can find us anywhere. And then also you can like, subscribe, and get the notifications on the YouTube channel. We do put out occasional videos there for you, as well as far as some picks and other fun things. So make sure you're following along. That's going to wrap it up here for this week. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another round of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.